Okay. So Adil, we can start now. It was just an introduction in Arabic. The presentation will be in English. If there is any questions, it will be also in English. And if there is any question in Arabic, I will translate it to you.
Perfect. Okay? Perfect.
Okay.
Can I just confirm, Hani, you can see my screen, which is just showing.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. Yes.
I will try to speak at a reasonable pace because I understand English may not be your first or native language. So this slide deck here, I just show this one slide to all new clients. And the reason I like to do this is something I've made that shows you from discovery through to publication how EndNote actually works in the back end as well as the features. So this first step here, which is called extracting data. So what this actually means is this is the discovery phase of your research. And this is where EndNote Desktop, which is the application that you have access to, has a connection to over 6,000 online journals. So a lot of these journals are open access, meaning they are free to access for everyone. And examples of this will be Google Scholar and PubMed, as well as many more that you may be using at the university, but these are the two most common ones. And then we do have gated access or subscription journals, which you, if you subscribe to as a university, then you can have access to those as well, such as Web of Science, which is one of Clarivate's online journals. The second step, what you can do once you have done more of the discovery is you can bring in references. And once you bring in those references, you're creating your own bibliographic database. With EndNote, you don't have any sort of limitation on the storage capabilities. It is unlimited storage, unlike other providers out there. This third step here is where you can then use that information and share it. So you can share your references alongside the PDFs and the notes internally as well as externally. So you can do that with your colleagues, your researchers. The current limitation on the numbers is you can share it with up to 400 people. So that is of course, it should be well within reason. The next step right here is the associating records to its full text version. So what this function is the find full text search. So what you can do is you can run, once you have your references in your library in EndNote, you can select the references and you can click a button called find full text. And what that will do is it will search online and provide you with the full PDF and attach it to that reference. So that's of course a great feature within EndNote. And then a follow-on point from that on step 5 right here is what you can do is you can actually make annotations and edit those PDFs. And this is without an Adobe subscription. So you can highlight, underline key bits of information, and even add sticky notes so that you could add additional information to a research project or a PDF that you're working on. The last step right here is more so when you are submitting your research project or your thesis or your dissertation, whatever it may be called in your respective countries. And this is through something called the Cite While You Write feature. So what the Cite While You Write feature is that once you download EndNote, and you may have already noticed this, or you may be well aware of this, the Microsoft Word and PowerPoint applications will have an EndNote 20 plugin. You can probably see it right at the top here on my PowerPoint deck, but I will also show you the full version towards the end of the demonstration through Microsoft Word. But to give you a quick overview, this has access to over 7,200 output styles. And if you have output styles that are customized at your university, we can also help you customize those and input those into EndNote Desktop. So that's a very short overview of EndNote and how it works, more so for new users, just in case anybody is very new to it. I wanted to initially share this with you. what I'll do now, if there's no questions, is I will move on and show you the training and technical support material that we have. I will share all of this information with all of you following the call. I appreciate it's also being recorded, but these links will be really useful for you following the call. So this first link right here is the EndNote 20 portal. And we put significant investment into this area of our website over the past 2 years, and you can see that there's quite a lot of videos here available. There's about 13 or 14 pages worth, which is around 100 plus videos, and you can see they're updated quite frequently. So some of these are feature-based videos where you can sort of learn certain features within EndNote, and they may be 2 to 3 minutes long, and others may be class recordings, which are 30, 40-minute sessions, which you can get up to speed with as well. The reason that we made these is that we wanted to take the workload off of our clients, and we wanted to allow you to get up to speed with EndNote and learn EndNote in your own time. The second link we have here is an extension of those training videos, but these are live sessions. So we've got, I believe we have about 4 or 5 sessions per week, and most of these are in English, but essentially they show you, for example, EndNote 20, the essentials, or a question and answer session, the advanced features, online essentials, expert features. And anybody can join these sessions if you subscribe to EndNote. All you would need to do is click on register, and then it will take you to that to allow you to register. If I click on back here, you can also see the recorded webinars. So if there's webinars in the past that you were not able to join, you can click on these and join these webinars. Some are in English, others may not well be, so you can pick and choose those. And then the last thing, this is more so important for your IT departments, but it is the technical support we have available for EndNote. So if you have any queries regarding, for example, compatibility issues or any troubles that you're having with EndNote, please initially raise that with your EndNote IT department. And if they are unable to support you, then we can support you through email or calling us. And within 24 hours, one of our team members will be able to get back to you. So what I'll do now is I will jump into the EndNote 20 platform. And this is how EndNote 20 appears. So if you've used EndNote in the past and not EndNote 20, you'll be able to tell that this is quite different from what you've seen in the past. And the reason for that is that we send out surveys globally to our power users of EndNote. And based on the feedback, we upgrade EndNote with those features. And some of the features asked for this time were to upgrade the user interface and to have more functionalities like the tabs feature, which you see on Google Chrome, and some more features which I will mention shortly. So the first thing I want to mention before we do anything within the platform is that when you are saving your library, so file and save, we always advise that you save it on your local drives. So for example, your desktop or any of these, rather than do not save it, or it's recommended not to save it on OneDrive and Network Drive, or also SharePoint. The reason is because it can lead to corruption of your library over time. So we always advise that you save it on your local drives. So that's one of the first important points. I'll now explain to you a bit more about the layout and then show you how you can import references into EndNote. So here on the left-hand panel, you've got your references tab, and then you've got my groups. So you can see there's my group 1 here, group 2, group 3, and group 4. Something I mentioned within the presentation is about the find full text, which I've got right here. Then I've got the group shared by others, and then the online search. So there's 4 ways that we can bring references into EndNote. 3 of these ways are within EndNote. 1 is outside of EndNote via the browser. So the first way would be if you click on File and Import, so you can either import a file or a folder into EndNote. The most sort of recommended way to do this, or the reason that you would be using this method, is that if you've got PDFs already on your local drives, on your computers, or in a different reference management tool, you could, for example, choose one of your folders, and then you could import them as a PDF and click on Import. And what would happen is that it would create a reference with the attachment of the PDF, just like this, through the metadata available within that PDF. So that's the first way of bringing in references. The second way would be if we click on Reference and go to New Reference, you can see that it opens up this tab. Now, this is a manual way of doing it, and the reason that this is available is if you have, for example, a non-digital reference which you needed to input manually. So you can see the reference types available, for example, a book or ancient text, or depending on you know, what digital non-asset it was, for example, a newspaper article, a patent, personal communication. And then you could fill the information available here in however much detail you would like, and also attach the file. So that's the second way of bringing in references. The third way is actually this online search mode. So if I click on the online search, you can see there's about 7 or 8 favorited online journals here. If I click on more, you can see all of the journals that you have access to within your EndNote library. So I gave the example earlier of Google Scholar and PubMed. So PubMed, because it's open access, I will use this as an example. So I click on Choose, and this opens up this tab right here. And what I can now do is I can choose to search PubMed through EndNote. You've got so many fields that you can use to search, for example, year, title. But if I use all fields and I use an example of, let's go with heart disease. So if I type in heart disease, what this will do is it will check PubMed, as you can see it's searching here, and it will find all of the references related to heart disease. You can see there's 527,000 it's found here. Of that, I'm choosing to show 25. I can increase it to 50, 75, or 100, but you can see that there's 25 references available here. Now, this is important to mention that this isn't your current library. You can see these 25 references. If you wanted to import this into your library, you can click on this button, which highlights all of your references, and then you right click and copy. And then once I click on my All References tab, I can right click and paste, and you should see the 69 number increase. So if I click on paste, you can see that those new references have been added, and you can see it's increased from 69 up to 94. And then the recently added tab also shows you those that have been recently imported into EndNote. So that's the third way of bringing in references into your library. The last way would be via the browser. So if you can see this, where I now use Google Scholar as an example, I will also use heart disease here, and I can show you how you can import references through the browser, such as Google Scholar, into EndNote. So you can see for each reference, there is a button right here which says Cite. If I click on Cite, you will see that there's 4 hyperlinks. There's a hyperlink here for EndNote. If I click on that and click on this button right here, it will import that reference into my EndNote library. And you can see that's increased from 94 to 95 references. So that's the 4 ways of bringing in references into EndNote. What I'll do now is I will show you how you can create groups. And one of the most important or favorite groups that I hear from my clients is something called a smart group. So if I click on groups and click on create smart group, what this allows me to do is I can now create a group with up to 10 criteria. So if I click on plus, I can show you that there's loads of criteria you can put on it, right? And what the benefit of this group is that if I call it heart disease, because we use that example, You can modify the criteria of this smart group so that any references that come into your all references tab, which is your main library, can automatically drag into this group depending on the criteria. To make this a bit clearer, I will give you an example. So if I use any field containing the keywords heart disease, this should bring in any keywords out of the 95 references that have heart disease within them. If I click on create, you can see that 15 of those references have the keywords heart disease within their library. So that's why that's updated there. You can actually modify this further. So if I click on the right click and edit group. If I click on right click and edit group, you can then add more fields. So if we go to, for example, year, and we only wanted the latest journal, so we could type in 2022 here, and that should decrease. So it's decreased from 15 to 12. And anytime you bring in references into your main library, and they've fit the criteria for a smart group, they will automatically fall into that group. So that's a big benefit of these smart groups. What I will do now is I will show you the find full text feature. So I'll highlight these 10 or so references. And if I click on references at the top and go to find full text and click on this button, you'll see that this find full text is now searching these 9 references. It will give me one of 3 answers here. It will either find the PDF, find the URL, or be unfound. The reason it will be not found in some cases is because there may not be enough data available. It will find the URL if the PDF is within a subscription journal, and then it will find the PDF mostly for most of those references, which I can show you shortly. So you can see out of those 9 references, it's found 4 PDFs, it's found 3 URLs, and 2 have been unfound. If I click on the 4 found PDFs, the way that you can tell that a PDF has been found is that it's got an attachment icon on the references. So if I use this as an example, you can see the metadata is available on the right-hand side. So you've got the title of the journal, the authors, the DOI number, the URL from where it's obtained, as well as the abstract. But then if I click on this, I can open this PDF. So you can see the PDF has now opened. And now what you can do is you can use the markup and annotation button right here. And this will allow you to edit your PDF as shown in my presentation earlier. So you can now, if you use this icon, you can highlight key bits of information, you can underline text, which I can show right here, and then you can strike out text if there's irrelevant text out there, or you can add something called sticky notes. If I click on this, you can see that it creates a sticky note for me, and I can type in EndNote 20, for example, just for the sake of the demonstration, but you can type in whatever you like, you know, depending on whatever information you've got, but there's no word limit on these to my knowledge. Once you close that and close this, on the first occasion, it will ask you if you want to save it. And then once you've saved it once, it will automatically save when you're closing your PDFs. You can also share these groups or libraries with your colleagues, and that will show them the notes and the annotations you've made to your PDF. So the next thing I want to show you is the sync feature. The reason this is important, I will explain in a second. So that in order to synchronize your EndNote library, you need to click on library and then sync. For myself, it will synchronize automatically now in the background because I'm an existing user of EndNote. But if you're a new user of EndNote or you've never used this function before, then what will happen is it will pop up a small window and it will ask you for your EndNote Online username and password. If you don't have an EndNote Online account, it will ask you to create a new account, which will take 1 or 2 minutes. And then once you input that information, it will connect your EndNote desktop account, which is this application that you're using, to the EndNote online cloud. And the reason that this synchronization is important is for two reasons. One is that you can access this library on multiple devices. So whether it's on your phone or your work laptop, your personal laptop. And then secondly, you can access the sharing functionalities. So what I will do now is show you how you can share this library. So in order to share this library, you would click on File and then Share. And then that will bring up this window which shows you who you're currently sharing with. And you can also add people to this library through entering their email address, for example. So if I just use this as an example, I can type in a random email address and type in, give them permission rights. So read and write access or read only access, and then add a message, which would be optional. So, hi, please join this library. So that will send them the invite via an email. They will have a hyperlink to join the shared library and have access to this. If somebody leaves the organization or is no longer working on a project, you can open up this window, go to their name, click on this icon and remove them from the library. So that would update that. An extension to this sharing point is if you click on sync status, it will authorize your EndNote online account. And then there is an icon right here in the top right. So the record of recent transactions. If I click on this, it will show a drop down. What this shows is the last 500 changes made to this library. You can only see my changes at the moment because this is a demo library, but if you were sharing it, for example, with your department or your teams, then you would be able to see all of the last 500 changes made, which could be really useful for you to see the updates over the weeks or the days, depending on how often you're using that certain project. Apart from that, we have a couple of new features, like you may have noticed these tabs at the top. So the reason that we have these is that it just allows you to easily transition between your workflows, especially if you have loads of groups, then you can actually create many tabs and work through them. For example, if you had 25 tabs open and you weren't able to see the headings of each tab because you've got too many open, you can click on this drop down and you can easily transition between tabs, as you can see here. So that's another feature added within EndNote 20. The last thing I want to show you is the Cite While You Write plugin, which I mentioned in the presentation. So I will share this with you over here. So on this Word document, I will first type in Cite While You Write. So you can see the EndNote 20 plugin right here at the top. This is connected to your EndNote desktop library. So you can see a number of icons here at the top. You can, for example, the first thing I'll show you is the output style. So you can see my favorited output styles here. And currently I've chose Vancouver, but I can switch it, for example, to Harvard, if that's the preferred style at the university. Now, what I can do is I can click on Insert Citation, and this will bring up, if I search heart disease, for example, you can see all of the references within my library that relate to heart disease. Now, if I select these sort of first 8 or 9 references and click on Insert, you can see that all of these references have been entered into my library. Now, if you wanted to change your output style, you can just click here and change it to Vancouver, a numbered style, and you can see it easily transitions to that. So this is, of course, a very beneficial feature if you're writing a thesis or a project that you need to submit online. And then one of the last things here is the Edit and Manage Citations button. So if I click on this button, this brings up all of your references. If you wanted to remove any references, we always advise that you go to this tab. And for example, if this AMA 2021 reference you wanted to remove, you can click on this drop down and click remove citation. And if you wanted to remove this, you can also remove citation. And I'll click on OK now, and this will update my library to those 5 references. The reason that we advise that approach and not just doing this is because if you do that approach, you know, by just manually backspacing over time, it may leave hidden code text behind and it can lead to corruption of your library. So we always advise against that, and we advise that if you want to remove a reference, you go to the edit and manage citations button and then update accordingly. So that is, you know, in brief, the training session on EndNote. Initially, I showed you the presentation, which showed you discovery through to publication. Then secondly, we moved on to the EndNote onboarding and training videos, as well as the technical support. And then lastly, I moved on to the EndNote desktop application, followed by the Cite While You Write plugin on Microsoft Word. That's all I've had to present today. If there's any questions, now would be the time to sort of raise your hand and get involved. Or if not, if you feel comfortable, you know, sort of asking via email, I can share my, Hani can share my email with you following the call, and I can get back to you as well later this week with our technical support team, who are the product specialists.
Thank you, Adi.
No worries.
Is there any questions or feedback for what we saw today in EndNote and how we can help in توثيق ومشاركة البحث العلمي?
I think there's a few questions in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, so the question is it free for BSAU stuff? Okay, so this will be discussed with, with the library, and till now it's not, but you can get or update the answer with the library. It's the main objective is to see the product and see if it can provide the value for the stuff, and then it can be provided and things. Mrs. Amina, لو حضرتك تقدري تجاوبي على السؤال ده.
So Hassan has asked the question, what are the advantages of EndNote over other softwares, and what makes it worth to use? So to give you an idea, with EndNote, in comparison to all other reference management tools out there that you may know of, such as Mendeley or Zotero, which are free platforms, globally, we work with a large percentage of universities and pharmaceutical organizations for EndNote. And the reason that EndNote has clear advantages over these free tools like Mendeley or Zotero, or even cheaper paid for solutions, is that firstly, we update EndNote, you know, 3 to 4 times per year, with small updates, for example, bug fixes, updating the compatibility to the new Mac versions. But then we also have a range of features that are not available within Zotero and Mendeley, which I can also share on the browser as a document later as a follow-up. But then that second piece that I showed you, I'll share my screen here. So with the onboarding and the support that we provide, we make it very simple for you in terms of being able to get up to speed with using EndNote quickly. And that is through all of this content. You know, these are very short videos explaining simply how to use EndNote, and then having these webinars where everybody can join these sessions. And then alongside that, we've got 24 hours technical support, 7 days a week. To be very clear and honest, from my side, EndNote is a very sort of comprehensive solution. It is used by sort of master students, faculty and staff at universities, and master's students, or those within heavy research, for example, medicine fields, pharmacy, all of these types of fields, or engineering, anything like that. If you're a sort of basic researcher or like an undergraduate, then Mendeley or Zotero may be more useful for you. But to most universities that we work with out in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, as well as in the UK, around 85 to 90% of them use EndNote because they don't see the benefits of Mendeley or Zotero with their plugins, because they always seem to have corruption, because they're not updated frequently. And then all of the other features, as mentioned, regarding the smart groups, as well as the find full text, the syncing feature, which is really helpful in you know, this remote working environment that everybody has now got used to. So those are, in brief, the reasons why EndNote is superior. We typically tend to hear from our clients about you know, why EndNote is so superior. I mean, on a daily, weekly basis, I always get people come to me into my inbox saying, oh, you know, I'm looking to transition over to EndNote from Mendeley or Zotero because the site while you write plugin is just causing us too much of an issue here at our organization, and they tend to upgrade. So it is more of a sort of a high-end solution for both universities and typically all corporations like pharmaceutical, medtech companies, biotechnology companies. I hope that answers your question, Hassan. I think there's a, no worries, Hassan. I think there's another question, Hani, from Amina, if you don't mind translating.
It's no, it's not a question. It's she's inviting the attendees, if they have any question in Arabic, so they can write it and we will translate it.
Oh, sure.
فلو في أي أسئلة بالعربي بالإنجليزي تفضلوا وإحنا بنجاوب عليها. بننتظر دقيقة أو دقيقتين. لو ما فيش أسئلة هنكونكلود. So there is a question, Adel. Can I merge my libraries from different software to EndNote?
Yes, you can, quite easily. So the way that you would do this is within EndNote, all you would need to do is click on File and then click on Export, and you should be able to do that easily. I will share my screen so I can show you that a little bit easier. So if I go to Screen 2 and I do the EndNote platform, so if I click on File, I can click on Export, and you can see you can save as, for example, a text file, rich text.
Adel, we cannot see your screen now. Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yep.
So, if we go here and I click on File and Export, then you can, for example, if you've been using, you know, Mendeley or Zotero, you will have a file for Mendeley. Say, for example, this was Mendeley, this screenshots file. All you would do is click on Open. You could also choose the output stuff. And once you click on Save, it will automatically start to bring in those references into your library. If you have any issues with that, then our product specialist team can also help with, you know, exporting your existing libraries into new libraries of EndNote. So that's not a problem at all. Iman mentioned that you need a recording of the session. This session is being recorded from what I can see, so you should be receiving the link after. What I'm going to do also is I can share you this link For anybody who's interested in seeing the differences between EndNote, Zotero and Mendeley, there's a comparison table right here if anybody wanted to see. I'm sure that if you do have a demonstration of those platforms, I'm not sure even if you can get a demonstration because they're free platforms, that you'll be able to see. I mean, if there's researchers out there who use reference management tools at PSAU, then they would be best to ask about what their thoughts are on Mendeley and Zotero in comparison to EndNote, because EndNote is a much more comprehensive solution.